We're gonna play a few games. Here's the deck right here. It's called 1, 2, 3. I'll show you once the mud gets out of arena. Once the mud gets out of arena shoes, we're gonna play brawl like we usually do. 2 hours, roughly, a little bit more, a little bit less. Depends. Usually at least an hour and 55 minutes though. I made this deck a while ago, so like I said, once the mud gets out of arena, we'll go ahead and showcase it. Come on. Come on. All right, we got it. All right, this guy is Uldar, Raven Guard Marshal. This guy's sweet. So when he enters the battlefield, another non-token creature you control gains double team until end of turn. Double team means that when they attack, they make conjure a duplicate of it in its hand. So it makes like real copies of a creature. And then whenever he attacks, conjure a duplicate of another target non-token attacking creature into your hand. So he's like a double team commander. He gives double team. His effect is double team. All right. Fragment Reality, you'll see this in a lot of white lists. Exile target non-token artifact creature enchantment. Its controller puts a random creature card with mana value less than. Giant Remover. Chop down. Remove target creature with power 4 or greater. Tap another target creature. Cool. Swords Plowshares. Exile target creatures. Controller gains life. Lightning Bolt. Deals 3 damage to any target. Cool. Valerian Aposture. When he enters battlefield, deals 1 damage to each opponent. You create a blood token. Dawnbringer Cleric. Enters, choose 1. You can gain 2 life. Remove an enchantment or exile target creature card from a graveyard. Charming Prince. When he enters battlefield, you choose 1. Scry 2. Gain 3 life. Exile target creature your own. Return it back to the battlefield at the end of the turn. Yeah, at the beginning of the next end step. Cabrera Takedown. It's a gang up effect. Deals damage equal to the amount of creatures that you have to target creature or planeswalker, or it's a tapped white source. Rafine's Informant. When he enters a battlefield, it connives. Connives means that you draw a card and then you discard a card. If you discard it on land, it gets a 1/1 counter. Shadiri's Shelter. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Then the Glacier is a tapped white source. Cemetery Gatekeeper. I don't really like this card. I kind of made this like, you'll see this whole list. It's based off of just really like kind of aggro-y smaller cards, but there's definitely a lot of ways you can go with this guy. So, anywho, Cemetery Gatekeeper, first strike, enters battlefield, exile a card from a graveyard. Whenever player plays a land or casts a spell, if it shares a card type with the exiled card, he deals 2 damage to that player. That includes you, so you gotta be careful. Direfleet Daredevil, this card's sweet. Has first strike. Then when he enters, you can swipe a instant or sorcery from your opponent's graveyard and cast it for any mana cost or like any sort of color cost. Flame Scroll Celibate and Revel in Silence is a double-sided card. When an opponent activates an ability that isn't a mana ability, deals 1 damage to that player, and then he gets Fire Breathing, or has Fire Breathing 2 mana for 2 attack. And then Revel in Silence, your opponent can't cast spells or activate Planeswalker's loyalty abilities this turn. Exile Revel in Silence. Can't cast spells means they can't play any cards. They can only play a land, and they can't activate Planeswalker abilities. So you can effectively like shut down their turn. It's actually nuts. Lava Coil deals 4 damage to target creature. If it'd be removed, you exile it instead. There's a better version of this. We're not going to put it in right now because I don't feel like changing this list. But there's definitely a better version of Lava Coil. First strike with Rahilda, Wanted Cutthroat. Rahilda deals combat damage to a player. Exile a land card from their library at random. During your turn, if you attacked with a wolf or a werewolf, you may cast that card, and mana can be spent with any type of mana. And then the wolf version does the same thing, except it gets double strike. So this is like the outlaw dude from Eldraine. Scorching Dragonfire deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If it would be removed, you exile it instead. Machino Pyromancer is an old but gold card. Enters battlefield, deals 2 damage to target player or planeswalker. Good stuff. Liara of the Flaming Fist. At the beginning of each combat, each creature you control gets 1/1 until end of turn if it has the same name as another creature as you control or a creature card in your graveyard. That's part of the reason why I'm playing this guy, because he's like the only person that can play this card. Because this card is terrible, actually, in Brawl, because you can't satisfy that condition, because you can only play everything as a 1/of. But another non-token creature you control gains first strike and double team until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery and only once. So she's just like really intensive. Lightning Helix deals 3 damage to any target, you gain 3 life. Rip Apart deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, it pops an artifact or enchantment. Sky Knight Vanguard, flying whenever it attacks, you create a 1/1 white soldier token. Sky Terror has flying and menace. This card is just incredibly hard to block. It's a really cool card. It promotes quite a bit of damage early because it's incredibly hard to block. Brutal Cathar enters the battlefield or transforms into Brutal Cathar and exiles target creature until it leaves the battlefield. And then when it turns into Mood Range Brute, it's just a first strike 3/3 with Ward 3. Ward 3 means that either they pay 3 life or the spell fizzles that targets it. Late Spellbinder enters battlefield, look at target opponent's hand. Exile a non-land card from it. Donor may play it. If a spell played this way, costs 2 more to cast. That's like the white version of discard. You see those types of effects, I'm going to start calling them white discard. Forsake the Worldly, exiles target artifact or enchantment. Hanged Executioner enters the battlefield. You get a 1/1 spirit along with him. Then you can pay 4 and exile target creature. Firing Overseal enters battlefield, draws a card, and gains 1 life. Mentor of the Meek, this card's sweet. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters battlefield under your control, you can pay 1. If you do, you draw a card. Milia Crafty Companion. Whenever an opponent attacks 1 or more planeswalkers you control, put a loyalty counter on each planeswalker. Whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability your opponent controls, you may draw a card. We're mostly playing it for its second effect. And then it's got Luca Wayward Bonder on the other side of it. You may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. If a creature card was discarded this way, you draw 2 cards instead. Turn target creature from the graveyard to the battlefield against haste. Exile at the beginning of your next end step. This is rare, actually. This is a red reanimator effect, so that's pretty cool. And then you get an emblem whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So this Lucca is actually pretty sweet. A Priest of Ancient War enters the battlefield, draws a card, gains life. It's just like the Inspiring Overseer, except worse because it doesn't have flying. Skycrew enters battlefield, you exile target non-land permanent that's 4 mana value or less, and then when he leaves them an illusion behind that's equivocal to their mana value. So if it's a 3-drop, it's a 3/3, as an example. Fairy's Protection, you gain until your next turn, your life total can't change. You gain protection from everything. All permanents you control phases out. Exile it, because you can't, if you were to abuse this card, you could just like survive forever. Welcoming Vampire. It's the same thing as Mentor of the Meek, except it only triggers once and it's free. Ambergris Citadel Agent. Haste, Specialize. Enters the battle, or when it attacks, you may discard your hand and draw 2 cards. Then I'm not going to go over the specialized stuff. One Crusher Giant has Stomp, deals 2 damage, but damage can't be prevented this turn. Then whenever it becomes a target of spell or ability, deals 2 damage to that spell or ability's controller. Brittle Blast, creatures in Planeswalkers your opponents control perpetually gain. If this permanent would be removed, exile it instead, deals 5 damage to your creature or Planeswalker. Flamescall, this card is pretty sweet. Flying, Flamescall can't block. Rejuvenation, when he gets removed, you exile it instead. If you do, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play one of those cards. Like, if you cast Flameskull, you can't play the card. If you play the card, you can't play Flameskull. He's pretty cool. Furious Rise, this could probably come out of the list. If you have a creature at the end of your turn with power 4 or greater, it exiles a card and hangs on to it until you play that card. So this is like a card that was like probably supposed to be in Theros, but they forgot about it. This card's sweet, actually, because you can hang on the card until you play it. Most of these effects get rid of it, like you only get like 1 turn to play it. Furious Rise is not like that. So Professional Facebreaker Menace. Whenever one or more creatures deal damage to your opponents, you gain a treasure token. Then you sacrifice a treasure and do an exile pocket draw, is what I like to call it. Velvet's Awakening allows you to swap your hand out for +1, and it's a tapped red source. Chance for Glory, this card's sweet. Creatures you control gain indestructible. Take an extra turn after this one. At the beginning of the end step of that turn, you lose the game. So you gotta make it count. Deafening Clarion deals 3 damage to each creature. Creatures you control gain lifelink. Sunrise Cavalier. This card's pretty sweet. Trample and haste. Neither day or night becomes day. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. This introduces the day or night cycle. I just play it because it's 3/3 with trample and haste. Tajik Legion's Edge, Haste Mentor, meaning when he attacks and he's got greater power than whoever he's attacking, he can give a 1/1 counter to things. Prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. Tajik Legion's Edge gauge first strike until end of turn. Bless Hippogriff, Tears Blessing. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Flying, whenever he attacks, he can give something flying. There's a lot of creatures that do this, but we're just playing them because I felt like playing them. Crush Contraband, exile target artifact or enchantment. Atsushi, the Blazing Sky, Flying Trample. When he gets removed and not exiled, choose one. Exile top 2 cards of your library. You can play those cards or you create 3 treasures. Usually the treasure is what you go for because it's just generally better. Rekindling Phoenix. When this creature gets removed, not by exile, it gets sent to the graveyard. If it's still in the graveyard, it leaves behind like a little egg. And then if the egg makes it around the table, like it survives, until the next turn, you bring the Rekindling Phoenix back out of the graveyard and get rid of the egg. Skyship Stalker, this card's alright. It's flying. You can play 1 red. It gets fire breathing for 1 attack. It can gain first strike and it can gain haste. It's just kind of like versatile. It's not really like it's alright. It's a bit low statted though. It's a 3/3 for 4, so keep that in mind. And it's a rare, so Storm's Wrath deals 4 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Haktos card. This card is absolutely insane. He attacks every combat if able, and then he enters the battlefield. You choose 2, 3, or 4 at random. He has protection from each mana cost besides the chosen number, which is absolutely nuts. This card is mental. Like, there's certain situations where if he gets the right protection, you pretty much can't deal with this dude. Ayao, the Dawn Sky, Flying Vigilance. When he gets removed, not exiled, choose 1. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put any number of non-land permanent mana values with total value 4 or less among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest of your library in the land of Uldar. Put 2 1/1 counters on each permanent you control that's a creature or a vehicle. We usually go for the counters. Cleansing Nova, you see this in every single list that I play. Remove all creatures or remove all artifacts and enchantments. As long as it's white. You can't play it in non-white. Because when Commander, your Commander dictates what colors you can play. Well, this is Brawl, but it's the same thing. Except you have less life. And we're only 1v1 instead of 4v4. Or 4-way. Free-for-all. Burn down the house, deals 5 damage to each creature, each planeswalker. Or you can create 3 devil tokens that have 1/1 and they have haste, and then when they get removed, not exiled, they deal 1 damage to any target. Goldspan Dragon, whenever he attacks, create a treasure token, he doubles the amount of mana treasures produce. And yeah, he's a pretty good card. Terror of the Peaks, flying. Opponents that cause or your spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life. And then whenever a creature enters battlefield under your control, he deals damage equal to that creature's power to whatever. Farewell, exile all artifacts, exile all creatures, exile all enchantments, exile all graveyards. See that card in every white list. Immortal Sun, we play this because we're not really playing Planeswalkers. Can't activate loyalty abilities at the beginning of your end step, beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. Spells cost 1 less, creatures get 1/1. Excellent card. Super heavy amounts of value. Ancient Gold Dragon, flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you roll a d20, create a number of 1/1 blue fairy dragon tokens equal to the result. Myra's Call, create 2 Angel Warrior creature tokens with flying. 9 angels gain indestructible. Or it's a tapped white source that you can pay 3 and have it enter untapped. Guardian Naga, I kind of felt like playing this because I was looking for exile effects with artifacts or enchantments, and this fits the bill. And it's a creature, so this card's not terrible. Its first part, Banishing Coils, exile target artifact or enchantment. That's at an instant speed, so it's decent. Vigilance, as long as it's your turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to Guardian Naga. So he's kind of got, like, he can kind of attack for free, and he's 5/6, so doesn't lose to damage. He's decent. Realm Cloak Giant, cast off, remove all non-giant creatures. Has Vigilance, and it's a 7/7. Veilmachus Lorehold whenever he swings in. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to Veilmachus' Lorehold power. From among them without paying its mana cost, put the rest in your body in the library in random order. He's kind of just here for his body. He's a 5/5 flying vigilance haste. Undo inversion, remove all non-land permanents, or it enters the battlefield tapped as a red or a white source. This is a red source, Shadow Golf Smashing. Deals X damage divided as you choose up to 2 target creatures or planeswalkers. If X is 6 or more, you deal twice that much damage instead. And then it's a red source that you can pay 3 and it enters untapped. Mana base, and yeah. So this card's this deck's pretty sweet. I would definitely remake it, but we'll just go with the version that I got now. I played it today, but I actually played this deck today and I got like 2 wins with it, so see what happens. It's Boros and he can copy creatures. This guy's pretty sweet. So Esper Lols. Yeah, I feel a bit more confident about this keep. Play Fear or the Snarl. Feel the Mountain, so it comes to play untaps. They go. This is just the Boros Snarl. Like I said, I made this deck a long time ago. Action for multicolor when opponents game of life. Oh wow, that's nice. Action for multicolor is pretty nuts. That's a lot of stuff. Pretty good stuff. I'm gonna play our commander. I gain 1 life. Late Spellbinder. That's the white discard effect. Gets rid of burn down the house. Burning down the house. And play this on our tapped. We'll just do this now. Lightning Helix. They quit. Good game. Life quit. Lord Werner. Up against Eskia, the God Tree. I despise this commander. Let's see why. We're going to hold back Dawnbringer Cleric because it can remove the Prismatic Bridge, Reading Rainbow. That's what I like to call that card. Card's just unfair. Honestly. It's very capable of just like winning the game out of nowhere. Because you happen to not be able to remove the bridge right away. So I were holding back this guy because he can remove the bridge, because you need to. Because if it goes around the table, it just picks out a random creature or planeswalker from your list and puts it onto the battlefield tapped, or untapped, rather, excuse me. Maybe sometime this year we'll get a red source. We can actually play the game. So if it boots, can't put that on an enchantment, which is good. Firing Overseer draws this card, gains this 1 life. Probably looking at what might quit here if they get rid of my guy. They didn't, luckily. Race Ancient Laura, same thing as this, except it doesn't have flying. Maybe sometime this year we'll get a red source. Like I said, they're going to tutor for a card. Tasha. I just we'll swing first, eliminate the Tasha because it's only got 2 health. And cast off. Don't feel like dealing with Terror of the Peaks. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Alright, we'll just move on to the next one. I don't like playing against this deck anyways, Askia. I think that card's overpowered, honestly. It's not fun. So, well, it's a loss, but I'm not going to count it as a loss because it's Askia. And we didn't grab a red, or we didn't draw a red source at all. We're a lot better off if we would grabbed a red source because we could have copied some of our draw cards. That's why a lot of our creatures have ETBs. But there's a lot of ways you can play this guy. So ETBs means that like when it enters the battlefield, it does something. Go ahead and remove their guy here. Tuck them underneath the Brutal Cathar. Comes nighttime. Pretty big deal. Let's go ahead and see what they're kind of holding up there. I get rid of Boon, give her Valkyrie. Moonrage Brute, send him. Deal 3, say go. Transfers back, swipes up the Samurai because we played 2 spells, so it became daytime. Because it'll stay night until somebody plays 2 spells. This card's pretty sweet. I should see if I got one of those. Anafenza, Kintree Spirit. It becomes night if somebody doesn't play any spells. Trying to leave them with nothing so Heliod can't become a creature. Because as it stands, they need Devotion to white, which is the amount of mana pips they have. See, they have 1 here and 2 here. He needs 5 Devotion. And take out Anafenza. Play Uldar. Give this dude double team so we got another one in hand. Say go. I'm gonna play Lucca. They just concede. They'll play a command list around them too. Because then you can kind of make this like interesting Boros Super Friends list. Their Milia like benefits your Super Friends, like if they get engaged upon, they get that loyalty counter ability, or you can play that Lucca. Because he's pretty cool, because he's like a red card that has a reanimation effect. That's like rare. Agoras. Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief. Yeah, we'll keep this. Hopefully get a white source. Like Sokenza, Crucible Defiance. This can make spirits. This card's pretty sweet. Alchemist Retrieval. Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief. I have yet to play this card. This card's tight, though. It's flying whenever a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy. You would take that spell and target Ivy as well. This is really fun. I'm going to play Liara with a Flaming Fist here. I'm going to play Wolfwell Haven that we swiped. Put it on the Field of Ruin. That way you can tap for a color. Mirror Hall Mimic enters as a copy of any creature, generous visitor. Whenever you cast an enchantment, it gets a 1/1 counter. Uldar activates. We'll fragment the Mirror Hall Mimic. Protean Thaumaturge, he's another copy creature. Send the team. See what we get. Season of Growth. Actually, a really good swipe from them. Go ahead and bounce their commander here. Back to their hand. And play Season of Growth, because why not? We still get the scry effect. This card's really good, though. This card reads whenever you target creatures with, like, combat tricks and other spells that target creatures, you draw a card. And if a creature enters battlefield under your control, you scry 1 as well. But that's what this card is for. It's to amplify combat tricks. Because that's what this card does. And auras, too. Auras that target creatures. Like, you'll see it's the test and training here. They're about to draw a boatload of cards. Because they target Ivy. Then it copies her with Thaumaturge. It's legendary, so they only have one. If you have a legendary creature, you can't have a legendary with the same name. Yeah, Ivy's a really cool card, though. Definitely like one of the most interesting commanders. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or okay, yeah. Send away that mountain. We don't need it. Leomachus attacks. Lightning Helix. Get rid of this Sea Dasher Octopus. They quit. Good game. I usually play Leomachus. He's just a good Boros card, honestly. It's a very good commander, too. Especially if you build around him. Play a little bit of ramp because you want to get him out a bit early because he has 7 mana. And he's like reasonably fair. He's not too incredibly crazy. I'm sure there's ways you can crack him open, but most of the time you're gonna just look to cast some 1-for-1 removal. Maybe you can play land destruction with him. Like a rampy land destruction list that kind of like has the white aspect to clear up the board if it gets too crazy. And land destruction to kind of slow them down on the redevelopment. They quit. Maybe people think this commander is better than he is. I don't know. I've only played him a few times. But I didn't really feel like playing against dinosaurs anyways. We had a pretty terrible hand. Dinosaurs are pushed to the moon, so I don't know why you'd ever quit with a dinosaur deck. Dinosaurs are insane. Like, they're easily, like, probably, like, just one of the strongest creature types in Magic. They get just really good cards. That was nasty. It has no fuzz in it. Thornbreaker of Silence. Sure, we'll be in good shape if we get a white source. Because this is actually a really good starting hand. Alright. Asking you shall receive. Cool. Play a white source, they go. Yeah, this guy's sweet, Thrun. He's just like really incredibly hard to remove. Get a bit greedy here by playing Welcoming Vampire, because if we can get her out early enough, we can start churning through our deck by drawing extra cards, which we want. Gwenin comes down. It's 2/1/1 counters. Thinking about it. Vertical Blast him, so they can't play too big of threats. 2 damage, they go. Because Thrun can't be targeted by non-green sources, and he's got Indestructible while it's their turn. Like, this guy's just incredibly hard to remove. I'm playing Inspiring Overseer. Draw 2 cards here because Welcoming Vampire triggers once, and then he or she triggers once. Swing it with a flyer. So I go. But yeah, this card is just incredibly hard to deal with. I should make a deck around this guy. Mono green list with him. Gotta turn Aronas, doubles his attack until end of turn. Tribute to the World Tree. I'll go over this card because this card's incredibly powerful. Whenever a creature enters battlefield under your control, draw a card if its power is 3 or greater. Otherwise, put 2/1/1 counters on it. Card's nuts. We will go ahead and play Dawnbringer Cleric because we kind of want to get rid of that World Tree. Like, for sure. A Terror of the Peaks here. We'll go ahead and play this. Ooh. Old Ronas, new Ronas. Eldritch Evolution. This card sacrifices a creature and you can get mana value X2 or more. Might be in trouble depending on what they get. We'll see. Old Gnawbones, sure. No blocks. We gotta go for Chance for Glory here. It's our only chance. It's our only chance. Of course, it's Chance for Glory. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and pay the mana so they removes the blocker. Heroic Intervention gives them indestructible. I mean, we lose here anyways if we don't do the right things. So, it is what it is. Sure, we'll discard our hand. Ooh, not really. They got it. Like I said, we couldn't quite get there. They had too many blockers. We didn't have enough damage. But whatever. It was our only chance anyways. Otherwise, they're going to go over the top of us. Because like I said, that's the problem with like the way our deck's set up. It's very low to the ground, so its ceiling isn't all that high. We got some high ceiling cards, obviously, but in that type of situation. I definitely rebuild this deck though, try and maybe smooth out the mana. This is during a time period where I was like really sick of playing ramp and like arcane signet and other like mana rocks and stuff and just like mana smoothing cards. But I think it's just mandatory to play at least 5. Yeah, we'll do this because we really need to hit a land. So we need to get our lands going. Deals 1 damage. We'll just blood token now. Okay, we got another land. Feeling good about that. Play as a land. Pop Gadia with 3 damage. Remove it. Send it to the graveyard. Apacher swings in, deals 1. Say let's go. Arcane Signet. Got nothing. Facebreaker comes down. Get a treasure token. Let's go. Herald's Horn plays it, calls Angels. Good game. They just got Magic the Gathering there. They could have recast their commander. Probably assumed that we had removal when we didn't. Like I said, this deck's very aggressive. Malarian Desecrator, draw a card, discard an instant or sorcery. Each opponent loses 1, gains 1. You lose, or they lose 1, you gain 1. Sacrifice it, cast an instant or sorcery from your graveyard this turn. Graveyard, exile it instead. Got a mastery token. I guess we'll spend it quick. Treasure map, sweet. This card's tight. Jank glue, as we used to call this. Scries 1, you put a landmark counter on it. Then if it has 3 or more landmark counters, you remove those counters, transform treasure map, create 3 treasure tokens. Then it becomes treasure trove, where you can sacrifice a treasure and draw a card. Or it adds one mana, 1 colorless mana. Used to call that card Jank glue. I'm glad I got one of those, because that's like my first one. That card was ubiquitous back in the day. I think it's still an excellent card, because it only costs 2 mana, it's colorless. Can go into any list. It's good treasure token payoff, too. Because you can just start turning those treasure tokens into draw. So we'll have to play some sort of treasure list. Charlton 64. Maybe we'll play Jund Treasures. I'll put it in there and I'll show you the power of that card. That's a pretty good start. I mean, we hopefully we run into a low cost creature. We should with this list. Ravenous Squirrel. Got double red just in case everything goes south because Chatterfang is very insane. This card's absolutely is very, very strong. I've never played him before, but I can make one sometime, show you what's what with him. Play Beast Whisper. They opt not to attack. We're gonna roll the dice. As protection from everything besides 3. This is really good because this is a 2, this is a 1, and this is a 4. So under the right circumstances, like I said, you're about to see how cracked this card actually is. This card's nuts. Honestly. Probably gonna have to up their commander to deal with it. Unblock here. I'm gonna block Beast Whisper so they can't draw. We'll actually just take the 1. Because that might be able to get big. I kind of want to draw. I want to make sure that we get to our land drops. So we can just take 1 damage. It's not that big of a deal. They go ahead and kind of waste their heroic intervention here, which is good. Play for Terrestrial Facebreaker. Pay an extra 1 so we draw a card. Haktos has to attack, so go ahead and make some treasure or make a treasure token here. They go. All right. Whoops. I mean, they still could have got it. Their commander could have blocked him. I play this like 2 more times. Then we'll switch over to a different deck. So, like I said, this card is just good. This deck's pretty decent, honestly. I might play another iteration of this list, though, too. Getting pretty lucky today. Deadpoolio, 18. Ooh. We're up against Kinnan. I despise this card. One of my least favorite commanders to deal with. Mm. They're wise not to play him. We don't get a land, unfortunately, so go. Because what they're trying to do is keep him around for longer than 1 turn. Call this Eddie, because he kind of looks like, his face looks like Eddie from Ed, Edd n Eddy. Honestly. Lantern Revealing. Because what Kinnan does is he makes your mana rocks and all that stuff like tap for more. I'm gonna land here. No. Get rid of an Immortal Sun, unfortunately. Because this is one of the first cards we got in this game where it's like he's an enabler and a win condition in 1 card. Because the secondary part is you can pay 7, look at the top 5 cards of your library, put a non-human creature card from them onto the battlefield under your control. And you put the rest in the library at bottom in random order. So right here they get crazy amounts of mana. Get rid of Eddie. Really can't let that guy survive like longer than like 2 seconds because he'll just like start running away with the game. So Eddie, like I said, he's probably the strongest card for my Corey in a nutshell. Is this card? This card's insane. Lava Coil probably has a protection spell because green's got a ton of them nowadays, and blue, so they can counterspell as well. Overcharge, they got to sacrifice itself probably, as to cover him. Sure. Counters the spell. Sends the Overseer, says go. Chromatic Orrery. Champion of Wits. They send Eddie our way. Hopefully we can get a land. Fairy's Protection. Then Brittle Blast Eddie. Force him to recast him at least. We can get another land, we can fare well. Get rid of all their mana rocks and stuff, because we're going to need to. This is when Eddie's going to hit his critical mass. With stuff and things. Because now they got Paradox Engine out, so they're probably going to play the game forever. Wish this card was banned in this game, Paradox Engine. It's banned in real life, because you'll see why it's banned. Because it literally allows you to take, like, infinite turns. Especially with cards like Eddie. See, now they're going to just take infinite turns. They can go ahead and make enough mana to crack their midnight clock. Let's see if they figure it out. Spark double. Copying Eddie. This is interesting because it ignores the legendary rule. Because it causes it to be a non-legendary. See how it's not legendary? Or there it is. I think I figured out. We're just going to concede. Like I said, that card, Kinnon's insane. Go ahead and put a no because that card should be banned. Honestly, that deck is just lame. Like dealing with like a Tali list and stuff like that. It's really not a fun commander. Fun Ducky. Yeah, we can probably keep this. Grab a land. That's good. Elf Ball. Starts off strong. I get rid of Morrowind here. So they don't go too crazy. Lava Coil, their Elfish Archdruid. Reduce their mana count. For Fortunate, we'll hit one of our land drops here, our board wipes, because we're going to need it. Teleport on the Wise. We're going to scry 1. 1/1 for each card you looked at scrying this way. The only art I've seen of him is the alternate art. Maybe that is the alternate art. I'm going to play Hanged Executioner. Make a 1/1, say go. Because eventually you can flood the board with him. I like that we got a lot of scry stuff in that set. I think scry is a cool mechanic, but I get why they don't really do it too much. Life quit. We'll call that a life quit because they definitely had it. They either disconnected or they life quit. So, and we're gonna switch decks here. Yeah, see, this is the better version of Lava Coil Obliterating Bolt. literally Lava Coil except better. For this, let me go use the restroom. Be right back. Not gonna bitch. I'm not gonna work. Like the YouTube stuff. Alright, I'm back. Yeah, that's a pretty good showing of that deck. Pretty good deck. Oh yeah, this is what I was gonna play. Play Hydla. Sorry, my tooth hurts. Cracked it a while ago and it's starting to hurt again. Alright, hold on. Let me check if I got one thing here. Okay. Alright, this is what this commander does. This is Hydla of the Icy Crown. She's basically Elsa from Frozen. Whenever you tap an untapped creature your opponent controls, you may pay 1. When you do, choose 1. You create a 4/4 white-blue elemental creature token. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, scry 2, then draw a card. This card's insane. Under the right circumstances, it can either fall flat on its face because tapping's not super strong, or it can just steamroll the game. So here we go. Authority of the Councils. Remember, these types of cards, if they enter the battlefield tapped, don't trigger her ability because she has to see them be untapped and then get tapped. Creatures or your opponent's control enter battlefield tapped. Whenever your creature enters the battlefield and your opponent's control, gain 1 life. This card's unfair. Illegal Wrestler, he's a 0/3. He can tap a creature for 2 mana. That's why he's here. Fanburst, same way. He's a 1/2 instead, though. And he taps for colorless, so keep that in mind because the other guy is a blue, so he cares about a certain color. Fragment Reality, you saw this in the last list. Exile target non-token artifact, creature, enchantment. Its controller plays a creature with lesser mana value from their deck. Giant Destroyer or Remover. Chop down. Remove target creature with power 4 or greater. Tap target creature. Give her Ruins. Another creature you control gains protection from colorless or the color of your choice till end of turn. We play this because Hydla needs to stay down on the board. If she leaves the board too many times, she's just not good at it anymore. Waloot Enforcer taps a creature with mana value 2 or greater for 1 and a colorless. It's probably like one of the best tappers, but there is a limitation on him. Still one of the best tappers. Runic Shot, this card's good. Kicker, destroy target tap creature. If it spells kick, scry 2. This card's nuts. It's a sorcery, though, so keep that in mind. Skrelv, Deflector Might. We play this because it gives hexproof to a creature. Toxic 1, can't block. Choose a color. Another target creature you control gains Toxic 1 hexproof from that color until end of turn. Can't be blocked by creatures of that color this turn. It's pretty much almost all of what protection does, minus the damage reduction. Swords of Plowshares. Exile target creature. Its opponent its controller gains life equal to its power. Cards unfair. Blind Obedience. Artifacts and creatures enter your battlefield tapped. Extort means that whenever you play Expel, you can add an additional white to it, and if you do, it drains for 1. Feelings of Dread taps up to 2 target creatures, has flashbacks, so you can play it again from your graveyard. Swift Response, destroy target tap creature. Counterspell, counter target spell. Cyclonic Rift. Bounces a non-land permanent. If you pay 7, it bounces all your opponent's non-land permanents. Doretha Fendril Victim. I play this because it's just a good card. Flying, when it attacks or blocks, sacrifice at the end of combat, has Disturb, so it can equip itself to a creature, and then it constantly makes 4/4 spirits when they attack. Card sweep. It's like single-handedly probably the reason that spirits is viable in historic halfway is because of this card, because this card is strong. You can even just play a deck around her in historic, which I will sometime, probably the next time I actually stream games or arena. I'm going to start doing some standard or constructed stuff, so stay tuned for that. Dolan's Veto. Spell can't be counter target creature spell. Arcane Signet. Have one's mana of color, any color in your commander's color identity. Cold Steel Heart. Enters battlefield tap. Pick a color. Taps for that for the rest of the time that's around. Ardenvale Tactician. Disney Swoop. Tap up to 2 target creatures, or it's a 2/3 with flying. Can do both. You gotta cast the adventure first, then the creature. If you cast the creature, you can't cast the adventure. Elite Spellbinder, we saw him before. He does the white discard effect. Look at it, tuck it away, cost 2 more. It's the white discard effect is what I'm going to call it. Kinjali Sunwing, creatures your opponent's control enter battlefield tapped. Lure into the third path, Vigilance, enters battlefield, destroy up to 1 targeted artifact or enchantment. You and target opponent each draw a card. Excellent. Skyclave Apparition removes a non-land permanent with mana value 4 or less. And then if it gets removed, they get illusion token, equivocal to that mana value. Stroke of Midnight removes a non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 1/1 white human creature token. Urza Silex, we play this to counter ramp. You can pay 2, you pay 3, play it. Pay 2 and a 2 white. Exile its Urza Silex. Each player chooses 6 lands they control. Destroy all other permanents. Activate only as a sorcery. When it's put into exile from the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do, you search up a planeswalker, put it straight in your hand. Dream Shackle Geist, to begin in combat in your turn, choose 1, tap target creature. Target creature doesn't untap during its next untap step. This card's alright. I mean, it's a 3/2. It used to be a 3/1, then they buffed it. Dragon Turtle, drag below. When it enters battlefield, tap it, and up to 1 target creature an opponent controls, they don't untap during their controller's untap steps. Ellis Mariner enters, or whenever it attacks, it scries 1. And then whenever you scry, you tap up to X target non-land permanents, where X is the number of cards looked at while you scrying this away. If you had like some sort of amplifier, this card would be actually nuts. But as it stands, it's really good. I'm starting to like this card a lot more as it does like a solid blue removal spell, and I'll explain to you why. Tap target creature. That creature perpetually gains. This creature doesn't untap during your untap step. And 8. Untap this creature. So this is really good at removing creatures that are basically only doing combat things or they're mana dweebs. Because you don't really want to pay 8 to untap your creature. That's a lot. Icebind Pillar, you put a snow mana into it, and then it taps target artifact or creature. Ice Rot Sentry, this card is absolutely insane. Vigilance, when it attacks, you pay 2, 1 and 1 blue. When you do, tap target creature opponent controls. Whenever you tap an untapped creature you control, Ice Rot Sentry gets 2 attack and 1 defense. So this guy can get kind of like pretty big, pretty dang quick. Raven Form, exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 blue bird token with flying. You can foretell it, so you can pay 2 and then pay the 1 blue later. Saw it coming. Counter target spell. You can either pay 3 or you can foretell it, pay 2, and then pay 2 later. So you can kind of make it like a little bit more profitable. It's a bit more expensive that way, but it becomes a lot easier to cast later down the line. Whenever a creature opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. This card is really nuts. Tap target creature without flying. This card can draw you a boatload of cards in this deck if you're, So this is one of the better cards draw wise for this deck. Is Verity Circle. It's probably about the only good deck that this card is actually good in. Let's be serious. Otherwise, it's not really that great of a card because it is nuts, but it's very limited because tapping is not really that good. Dovin to control artifact, instants, and sorceries. Your opponent's cast costs 1 more to cast. Till the end of the next turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to and dealt by permanents your opponent's control, or that target permanent. So you can't destroy something by damage, or get rid of something by damage. Excuse me. Tap target creature. This ability costs 1 less to activate during your turn. So this is free. It's a rare. and then sacrifice it. Draw a card for each tapped creature your opponent controls. Again, this is their 2 peas in a pod. Obviously, it's her crown, so it'd be good in her deck. Replicating Ring, Mana Rock, and then it pops when it gets 8 counters on it. You've seen it before. Skyclave Relic, you can kick it. Either you get 1 indestructible Mana Rock, or you get 3 indestructible Mana Rocks if you kick it. But they come into play tapped if you kick it, so you don't get to use them right away. Warm Power Stone, I'm trying this card out. It enters tap, but it adds 2 colorless mana for 3, so I'm trying it out. Dungeon Geist, this guy's pretty cool. Enters battlefield, tap target creature and opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap as long as you have Dungeon Geist. Sleep, this card is actually pretty good. You just don't see it too much. Tap all creatures target player controls. Those creatures don't untap during that player's next untap step, so it's a freeze tap, is what I like to call it. Time of Ice, tap target creature, doesn't control or untap. So freeze tap twice. We're just going to call them that. Because if it doesn't tap right away, untap right away, I'm going to call it freeze tap. So freeze taps twice, and then return all tapped creatures to their owner's hands. So they don't untap as long as you have Time of Ice. So it's like a super freeze tap, but it's a freeze tap. So until end of next turn, up to 1 target creature gets 3/-0, and its activated abilities can't be activated. -1, you gain 2 life, draw a card, and then you get an emblem. Your opponent can't untap more than 2 permanents during this untap step. This emblem literally wins you the game on the spot. Like, have fun only untaping 2 things. They're not going to be able to win. It's a Winter Orb effect, one-sided. Shri of the Numbing Depths enters the battlefield, tap target creature and opponent controls, put a stun counter on it. Stun counters means that if they were to untap, you remove a stun counter instead. It's like kind of the new version of freeze tap. Whenever you tap 1 or more untapped creatures your opponents control, draw a card. Triggers only once per turn. Barrier slows the sunset. You choose up to 1 target artifact, creature, or land. Untap your stuff, tap your opponent's stuff, and then it anticipates. Look at the top 3 cards. Put 1 of them into your hand, the rest in your bottom library random order. That -2 is anticipate. And then it's 7 is you get an emblem, untap all permanents you control during each opponent's tap step. You draw a card during each opponent's untap step. Icy Manipulator, tap target artifact, creature, or land. This card's nuts. Actually this card's actually pretty good. It's a little expensive, but it can tap lands, so you can kind of cut them off of a critical color source if they need it. But that's probably about the only deck it's good in. Doomscar, destroy all creatures, then you can go ahead and foretell it, kind of circumvent the cost later in life. Elspeth's Conqueror's Death, exile target permanent opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. 9 creature spells your opponent casts cost 2 more to cast this turn. Turn target creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on it or a loyalty counter. So you put a 1/1 counter on the creatures, you put a loyalty counter on the planeswalkers if you bring them back. Follow the Thrawn, this counters ramp, destroy all lands. Each player turns 2 land cards from the graveyard to the battlefield. It does that twice. You can be mean with it and like exile their graveyard with like one-sided exile effects. I don't really play it that way because it's really mean, but you can do that. Farewell, choose 1 or more. Exile artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or graveyards. You can choose 1 or more. Planar Cleansing, wipe the board. Like literally remove all non-land permanents. Includes your stuff too. River's Rebuke bounces all your opponent's permanents if you target them. Dream Trawler, whenever it attacks, it gains 1 light or gains 1 attack because it has lifelink, so you're going to gain life off of it. Then whenever you draw a card, it gains attack, and then whenever it attacks, you draw a card. And you can discard a card, it gains hexproof until end of turn, tap it. That can kind of rescue itself if it's getting targeted by something. You discard a card, give it hexproof, and then the spell fizzles. Immortal Sun, you'll see this in a lot of my lists. Players can't activate Planeswalker loyalty abilities. Beginning of your end step, or beginning of your draw step, you draw 1 card. Spells cost 1 less, and creatures get 1/1 bigger. Myra's Call, create 2 4/4 white Angel Warrior creature tokens. Non-angels gain indestructible. Realm of Coke Giant, destroy all non-giant creatures. Has vigilance on its other side. Cyclone Summoner bounces everything besides giants, wizards, and lands. Which I think she's a wizard. No, she's a warlock. Kira Best Sea God. This card like kind of just wins you the game. Create an 8/8 blue Kraken creature token with hexproof, so it's really hard to deal with. Tap all tap all non-land permanents target opponents controls. They freeze tap, and then you gain control of target permanent controls. Untap it because it would still be froze tap. Seagate Restoration, you draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand size plus 1, and then it's blue source on its other side. And you get no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Undo Inversion removes all non-land permanents. It's tap blue or tap white source. Gadget to Wizen. When he enters the battlefield, whatever X is, you draw that many cards. And then whenever you cast a blue spell, you can tap a target non-land permanent. Mass Manipulation, gain control of target X creatures and or planeswalkers. Mana base. Okay, cool. Mass Manipulation is one of the best blue win conditions. As long as you can pour enough mana into it. It's only really good if you pour about 8 or 9 mana, or 8 or 10 mana in it. Because sure, it can take one thing, but it's really hard to cast too. Because it is 4 blue, so that's actually really hard to cast. If you're looking for something similar that's easier to cast, it's called Imbolus's Clutches, and it's an uncommon. I'll run Master of Healing. I think this is a Lord of the Rings card. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, whenever you scry, put a 1/1 counter on each of X target creatures. Yeah, this card's nuts. I've been meaning to actually play that guy. I like the scry stuff from Lord of the Rings. It's almost like right there to being a deck. If it got like a more reasonable Johnny's Primate that wasn't legendary, you could probably actually play it as a deck and like constructed. It's actually a really good starting hand. We actually got stuff we can do right away. No cover planes, fan burst, they go. But yeah, the only thing this archetype is missing, the scry, is maybe like a draw card guy and a Johnny's Primate that can trigger more than once because you get chance met elves, but it only triggers once per turn. So not quite there like the scry stuff, but it's got some good stuff. They must be playing some sort of druid tribal. Play this tapped. Play Skrelv. They go. Because they declared druid, so. What Metallic Mimic does is you declare a said druid type or said creature type, and then it all the creatures come in with an additional 1/1 counter. Mentor's Guidance, it copies itself if you have a cleric, druid, shaman, warlock, or a wizard, so like the spellcaster creature types. Ozlith, you can put counters on it. Like if counters were to get removed from your board, they go on the Ozlith instead, and then on your combat step, you can could have swung in there, but we're not going to. On your combat step, you can shift said counters onto the Ozlith from the Ozlith onto a creature. Rashami, Eternity's Crafter. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, reveal the top card of your library. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. If it's a spell with lesser mana value, if you don't cast it, put it into your hand. I might play a deck off of her. Because she's like a Simic commander, but she's at least somewhat reasonable. Because a lot of the Simic commanders, the problem with them is they go way too hard. Then Raven form her though. See you later. I play Raven form and stuff like this in this list and Stroke of Midnight because it gives them a creature. So you got something you can tap down. That's why I play those two cards. You could even make an argument for Cavalier of Dawn too. Because as long as they got creatures to tap down, that's what you want. Because when they don't have creatures to tap down, she does nothing. Hydla doesn't do anything. I'm gonna skip our turn because they're just holding up a counter spell anyways. Moment of the Hunt, sure. Beginning upkeep, you may, yeah, Lysana, Hunt Master. Because what In Search of Greatness does is it checks your board, and then if you have a cost or mana cut, a card that costs less or more in your hand, exactly one more, you can play it for free. Otherwise, it scries one. Go ahead and scry two here. And tap down Burbula. Go Burbellum. That's word to your bird. And remove that. Obviously, they draw the card. Ozolith absorbs the counter. Okay, take 8 here. And tap down Query on Beastcaller. Belt Collector. Santa Hunt Master. He's making elves. That's right, you can't block. Here, we'll do this. They will draw a card here, but gotta get rid of that. Draw a card. Doing this because he's going to come back with Elspeth Conquers Death anyways. Lost Island's calling. This card's sweet. It's an extra turn spell if you scry enough. Basically what it does. Candy Trail, scry 2. Yeah, I've been really meaning to play this guy because I like scrying. I think scrying is a pretty sweet mechanic. I've always liked it a lot. I've liked it ever since I was a kid. So Mirror Mage. Yeah, this guy can get pretty nuts though. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to try this deck out. I'm impressed. The Simic deck too that like does something that's not lame. Time Ice gonna bounce their creatures. Yeah, you're about to see why this commander is not really that good though. It's because she requires a lot of setup and like tapping is not really that good, honestly. Really isn't. That 19/1/1 counters here. Yeah, I might have to try this commander. Kind of forgot about this guy, but I'm gonna probably one of the next streams. I'm probably gonna play him because I'm gonna make him tomorrow. So probably by Sunday I'll play him at least once. Like Professor's Bestiary, this card's pretty sweet. Maybe could have waited. on that. I didn't want to chance them having counter spells though. Fizzles. Yeah, I'll just chalk this one up as a loss because I really doubt that we're coming back from this. Yeah. On to the next one. I didn't know if they're playing counter spells or protection spells. So that's why I did that Cyclonic Rift early. But don't get your hopes too high up for Hydla. Because she's a commander that requires a lot of setup. Once she's set up, she's really, really strong, but there's a lot of moving pieces. Little hero. And Raven for this dude. Magic might crash here. Come on. Work. Alright, I'm just gonna go ahead and call it here. Hold on. Make it work. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and call it here. You have a wonderful day, viewer.